So when I broke down sort of my panel of advisors, I knew I needed someone from a business aspect. So someone who could improve me with my business acumen. And I think about it in 3 parts: help me make $1, save $1, and mitigate risk. And I'm like, who is the best person at doing that? But is also great at seeing potential opportunities. So yes, he will help me make and save money in my current business, but he will also say, hey, these are some other opportunities that are kind of coming up. And so the person that I actually picked is a little bit of an odd one.
Hey, dude, drop the name. Like, why are you teasing
Carl Icahn. Because I had this
there we
set up.
go.
So Carl Icahn's my boy.
Interesting. That is a controversial character to pick on business, obviously been wildly successful.
Totally. So the interesting thing is, because one, it's my team of advisors, Charlie, I can do whatever the hell I want. No, but the second thing is I don't need to tell people sort of that, hey, like I'm working with this controversial guy. So I'm like, I don't need to publicize this. But the reason is to his business acumen for being able to look at a bigger picture, ruthlessly analyze a business on wasting cash, saving money, or just doing the wrong strategy, in his opinion, again, for him to make money and shareholders to make money, I think is better than none. And so I'm like, this guy would be able to look at a business. Yes, he's a bit more macro than I would probably use, but I think that I'd be able to understand what he's saying, where he would look at what I'm doing, because I'm quite conservative. I'm a softer, sort of strategic executor on businesses, where he's just fucking ruthless. And he'd be like, dude, you're an idiot. Why the hell aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? Why aren't you doing that? And it would actually impact my thinking in the way that I'm like, oh, this is something I don't have in my skill set on my business acumen. I don't need a yes man. I don't need someone that was softly sort of hold my hand. I'm like, I need someone that would just hammer me across the back of the head and say, this is stupid for these reasons. And I go, wow, that's a completely different opinion from what I've ever learned and what I've ever thought. So that's why I went Carl Icahn from Icahn.
Do you know what? As you've said, like, I'm looking for someone that would give me direct feedback. I think you nailed that. I don't think there's a character I know of that is more direct. He would have to be one of the most direct people I've seen in the public light. The interesting thing for people that don't know, Carl Icahn's most noticeably famous for, like, what he does is when he sees there's a company that's going off track, or the management is going off track, he'll do what's known as a hostile takeover. So he will actually go in and take over the company either through purchasing their shares and getting on board with it, or working his way in what we'll say interesting ways.
Totally. But he's run companies before. So he was the CEO of an airline that he couldn't get back on track and couldn't do too well. But I feel as though one of the best parts about it is that his wider network that I would potentially get access to would be able to help me understand more about operations or finance or whatever I would need based on whoever got him to where he is today. He's also like massive shareholder, or was a massive shareholder in Apple, had conversations with Tim Cook, and basically the way the story goes, kind of strong-handed him.
I was going to say, there's a lot of interesting things around Carl Icahn that probably a lot of people don't. And we won't dig too much deeply. We've got a big list into it here, but most notably, I think there's like a lot of story around the Tim Cook conversation and what was done at Apple. Netflix was another one they did extremely well on. Yeah, and then there's a ton to go and look back on. So I guess the idea here is like what you would get from Carl, it would be the idea of he would be able to spot if your management has gone off course.
Completely.
Yeah, and I love that idea of like you've really included the idea of like incredibly direct feedback.
Yeah, and he's opposing to what I am. So I don't need someone, I'm not looking for someone who's the same as me. I'm looking for someone who's different. Like I don't need someone who I completely go, I just want to be the same as this. I want someone to improve on where I'm at, to give me completely different opinions and views than what I might have. And that's kind of why I went Carl.
It's an interesting way to think about when you take on advisors, right? Sometimes you do definitely, how can I put this, is if you get someone who's a bit of a yes man and a bit agreeable, you might end up actually convincing them that your idea is the way and they don't actually advise.
Exactly. Like sometimes
have you actually had that happen?
Yes. Yes, I have. But it's too. Also, yeah, totally. But it's also the point of like there have been a couple of people who have advised me where I've tried to convince them on like, hey, like this is why. And they've, over time they've just like, yeah, cool, you're right. No worries at all. And I'm like, damn it. If only you were like a bit stronger to prove to me why I was wrong, because it worked out that their thought was the right thought after reflection. And I'm like,
well, this is what becomes really challenging as you end up further in the game, right? So when I started my business, I was very open-minded to advice because I'm like, I know nothing. But once you start getting some runs on the board and know things that work for you, is you almost become more stubborn and set in your ways into like, well, I'm already winning at this. So your open-mindedness to advice kind of shrinks. And I think everyone would go with this. And I have to check myself regularly. I have to go, my favorite question to ask myself is, how willing am I to change? On a scale of 1 to 10, how teachable am I and how willing am I to change? Because that is what is going to be required to get to the next level. But I have been in environments with mentors where it's like they'll tell me from their perspective what the next move is, and I'll feel the need to tell them why that's wrong and this is actually the path. But I want the pushback, but I can add they have been soft at times because perhaps that wasn't the battle they wanted to face that day.
To win. Totally. Hey, fellow business owner, if this topic and value-packed short video has resonated with you at all, and you want to dive deeper into creating wealth inside and outside your business, check out the full episode by clicking the link on your screen or in the description right now.